At 2:17 a.m., a security guard noticed something strange on the building's camera system. At first, it looked like a normal empty hallway, but then something moved. Marcus had been working the night shift as a security guard for almost 3 years. The office building where he worked was usually quiet after midnight. Most employees left by 7 p.m., and by the time Marcus started his shift at 11 p.m., the entire building felt completely empty. His job was simple: sit in the security room, watch the camera monitors, and occasionally walk through the hallways to make sure everything was secure. For the first few hours of his shift, nothing unusual happened. The building remained silent, and the camera screens showed nothing but empty offices and long, quiet corridors. At around 2:17 a.m., Marcus leaned back in his chair and glanced at camera 12, which monitored the hallway on the third floor. At first, everything looked normal, but then he noticed something strange. The motion detection light on the screen suddenly turned on. Marcus frowned. That hallway should have been empty. No one had entered the building for hours, and the access doors were locked. He leaned closer to the monitor, watching carefully. The hallway lights flickered slightly as the camera adjusted to the movement, but there was no one there. Marcus assumed it might have been a glitch in the motion sensor. It happened sometimes with older camera systems. Still, something about it felt strange. He switched the monitor to full screen and kept watching. For a moment, nothing happened. The hallway remained empty and silent. Then suddenly, the motion sensor activated again. This time, something even stranger appeared on the screen. At the far end of the hallway, the emergency exit door slowly began to open by itself. Marcus immediately grabbed his radio, because according to the building's system, that door was supposed to be locked.
Marcus stared at the monitor as the emergency exit door slowly opened. The movement was slow, almost unnatural, as if something on the other side was pushing it carefully. But according to the security system, that door could only be opened from inside the building using a keycard. Marcus checked the access log on the computer. No keycard had been used. No one had entered or exited the building for over 4 hours. The hallway camera continued recording. The door opened wider and then stopped. Marcus waited to see if someone would step through the doorway, but no one appeared. The hallway remained empty. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the motion sensor triggered again. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. Something moved near the open door. It wasn't a person. At least, it didn't look like one. It was just a shadow, a dark shape slowly stretching across the floor. Marcus felt a strange feeling in his chest as he watched the screen. The shadow moved across the hallway wall, but again there was no person creating it. He quickly switched to camera 11, which showed the stairwell next to the hallway. The stairwell was completely empty. Camera 13 showed the elevator lobby, also empty. Marcus switched back to camera 12. The emergency exit door was now fully open. The hallway lights flickered once, then twice. Marcus grabbed his flashlight and stood up from his chair. Normally, he would ignore small camera glitches, but an unlocked emergency door was something he had to check. He picked up his radio and reported the situation to the night supervisor, but the radio only responded with static. Marcus tried again. Still nothing. The building suddenly felt much quieter than before. He stepped out of the security room and began walking toward the stairwell. The hallway lights on the first floor hummed softly above him. Every step echoed through the empty building. Marcus reached the staircase and started climbing to the third floor.
The entire time, he couldn't stop thinking about the shadow he had seen on the camera. When he finally reached the third floor, the hallway was dark, except for the emergency lights near the exit door. He slowly stepped into the corridor. Everything looked normal. The offices were closed, the carpet was undisturbed, but at the end of the hallway, the emergency exit door was open. Marcus pointed his flashlight toward it. The beam of light stretched across the empty corridor. He walked slowly toward the door, step by step. The closer he got, the colder the hallway felt. When he was about 10 feet away from the door, he suddenly heard something. Footsteps. Soft, slow footsteps. But they weren't coming from ahead of him. They were coming from behind him. Marcus froze. He slowly turned around. The hallway behind him was empty. No one was there. He listened carefully. The footsteps stopped. Marcus turned back toward the exit door. And that's when he noticed something that made his heart start beating faster. The shadow on the wall next to the door was moving again. But this time, it was moving toward him. Marcus stared at the shadow moving across the wall. It was slowly stretching across the hallway floor, getting closer to him. But there was still no person in the hallway. The beam of his flashlight shook slightly as his hands began to tremble. He stepped backward. The shadow moved again. This time it stretched across the wall beside him. Marcus quickly turned around, pointing the flashlight directly at the wall. Nothing was there. No object, no person, no movement. The hallway was completely empty. Marcus took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. "It's just the lighting," he muttered quietly. But the moment he turned back toward the exit door, the shadow suddenly disappeared. The hallway lights flickered again, once, twice. Then everything went completely still. Marcus slowly walked toward the open emergency exit door. Cold air drifted in from the stairwell beyond it. He stepped closer and looked through the doorway. The stairwell was empty. No footsteps, no sounds, just silence. Marcus sighed with relief. Maybe the door had malfunctioned. Maybe the shadow had just been a strange reflection from the lights. He stepped forward and pulled the emergency exit door closed. The metal door slammed shut with a loud echo through the hallway. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Marcus turned around and began walking back toward the stairwell that would lead him down to the security room. But after only a few steps, something strange happened. The hallway lights behind him suddenly turned off. Marcus froze. The entire corridor was now dark except for the weak beam of his flashlight. He slowly turned around. At the far end of the hallway, near the camera mounted on the ceiling, he thought he saw something move. A tall, dark shape stood for just a second beneath the camera. Then it vanished. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He quickly walked back to the staircase and hurried down to the first floor. When he reached the security room, he immediately checked the camera monitors again. Camera 12 still showed the third-floor hallway. The emergency exit door was now closed. The corridor looked completely normal. Marcus replayed the footage from a few minutes earlier. The video showed him walking through the hallway with his flashlight. It showed him standing near the door, then closing it. Marcus kept watching the footage carefully, but something about it was wrong. The camera showed Marcus walking through the hallway alone, completely alone. There was no shadow moving beside him, no strange movement on the walls, nothing unusual at all.
Marcus leaned closer to the monitor in confusion. He clearly remembered seeing the shadow move toward him, but the camera footage showed nothing, just an empty hallway and Marcus standing there by himself. Marcus sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe the long night shift was making him tired. But just before he turned off the replay, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. In the final frame of the footage, right before Marcus left the hallway, something appeared behind him, standing directly in the open emergency exit doorway. A dark, human-shaped figure, completely still, watching him.